Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Spurs Up Show. This is episode 21. We are going to be recapping everything that happened on Saturday afternoon in Williams-Brice Stadium with the Gamecocks coming away with a thrilling 17-16 victory over the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs in a last-second field goal by Parker White. But first, if you do want to follow the show, be sure to check us out on iTunes at the Spurs Up Show. Be sure to go there, rate and subscribe. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like about the show. We appreciate all the feedback there. Be sure to follow us on our Twitter account as well. That's going to be at ArmchairSCar, at ArmchairSCAR. Also, check us out on Instagram at ArmchairSCarolina. And also, this is a podcast brought to you by the Armchair Americans, armchairamericans.com, localizing your sports coverage content. Be sure to go check us out there at armchairamericans.com for all of your South Carolina Gamecocks breaking news, coverage, and, of course, the podcast as well. So, like I said, I'm Chris Phillips, your host. As always, I'm joined, as always, again, by my colleague Tyler Clark. Before we get into everything, Tyler, I'll ask how was your weekend? How are you doing on this middle of the week podcast?
I'm doing well. Last week, as you heard on Monday, I was sick immediately after the Kentucky game. I was sick, and I was sick all week. But now I feel better, so I don't have to talk about this game angry and sick. I'll just talk while angry.
Absolutely, yeah. And we definitely missed you last week. Everybody had to get just a dose of me for about 40 minutes. So it's good to have you back, Tyler. I will say it's good to have you back. But yeah, just jumping right into it. Like we said, Saturday afternoon, the Gamecocks beat the Louisiana Tech Bulldogs. It came down to the buzzer, but the Gamecocks got it done 17-16. Just some notable stats in the box score before we dive into everything. South Carolina did win the total yardage stat. They had 438 total yards. Louisiana Tech's 361. The Gamecocks with 295 in the air, 143 yards on the ground. Louisiana Tech edging the Gamecocks just slightly in the time of possession battle, 30 minutes and 52 seconds to South Carolina's 29 minutes and 8 seconds. The Gamecocks did cough it up twice. A Tyson Williams fumble and a Jake Bentley interception resulted in 2 turnovers. Louisiana Tech with just 1 turnover with a late interception by Jamarcus King. And the Gamecocks on third down, they were successful 8 of 14 times, a pretty solid number, but Louisiana Tech going 6 of 13 overall on the day. Some individual stats, Jake Bentley, another pretty solid game for him, 22 of 34 for 295 yards, touchdown interception. Tyson Williams finally getting something on the ground, getting carries again for Tyson, 13 carries for 95 yards and 1 touchdown overall. With the absence of Deebo Samuel, everyone looked to none other than Brian Edwards to step up. He did just that. 6 catches for 122 yards, including a huge catch to set up the game-winning field goal. His time basically was expiring. Ortre Smith, another guy who stood out, 2 catches for 36 yards, 1 really impressive touchdown over the middle, in which he kind of collided into 2 guys, stayed on his feet, and went in. So another guy the Gamecocks are going to be high on to fill in the production for Deebo Samuel. And on the Louisiana Tech side, Jamar Smith, the quarterback, youngster, he went 23 of 33, 281 yards, a touchdown and interception, his credit as well. And then Teddy Veal, the Tulane transfer that we had talked about last week before the game. We thought he might have a big game, and he did just that. 10 catches for 110 yards and a touchdown, a career high for him. So with that being said, we've heard all the stats. Jumping right into it, Tyler, that was close. That was not quite what we expected. Pretty miserable for 3 quarters, and the Gamecocks flipped a switch and turned it on. Talk about, Tyler, your initial reaction to the Louisiana Tech game. Obviously, I know that, it was an extremely, extremely frustrating game, but, you had a couple of days to process it. Talk about just your initial reactions to the game Saturday.
All right, I'll tell a story to set this up. So for the last couple of years, I have one of my best friends, Blake. He always asks me to shout him out on the podcast. Here you go. So I always tell him, I don't want to watch games at your house because every time we watch a game at your house, we lose. And I was peacefully protesting this game. I didn't want to go. So I had no other choice but to just kind of go to Blake's house. So we go there, and we watch what unfolded. And I got really – you know what? You can go wherever you're going. I'm going home. Literally the first play, as I stepped out of his house, Jamarcus King picks the ball off in the end zone. So I'm not saying it's my fault, but it's kind of my fault that whole thing happened. But Jamarcus King, how about it? I mean, he got burnt on a lot of plays again, but that's probably the biggest play of his career and probably the biggest play of this season, if not that kick being the biggest play. But yeah, to win that game really saved what could have been an absolute disaster and train wreck. I don't even want to know what would have happened if we would have lost that game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. I mean, it definitely to this point, saved South Carolina's season. I mean, a loss to Louisiana Tech. I mean, I think the wheels really would have, been coming off. But Jamarcus King, I was going to talk about it a little bit later going to the defense. But yeah, Jamarcus King, it kind of seems like one of those Jamarcus King plays. He just, finally got his head around and, picked the ball off. And I thought he played a really good game. He, played some good defense, got his head around, basically on every ball I saw thrown at him. But yeah, just a huge play on that. And we'll get into that in a second. I want to jump in the offense first because Tyler, as we mentioned, completely dead for 3 quarters. Well, I don't want to say completely dead.
Yeah, I don't think
mostly dead, pretty dead. But again, you start out the game. I was at the game Saturday. You start out the game. You got a really, really good drive going in the very first drive of the game. I'm thinking, okay, we're about to establish a rhythm. There's about, it's about to be some consistency. South Carolina is going to get a couple scores for half. We're going to see some guys interchange out. Instead, you get on the field, you get into the red zone, you stall, and then Parker White misses a field goal. And it just really seemed like all of the confidence was sucked out of the offense. Yep. Everything that they had done. I know that, you should be able to bounce back from that, but it really seems like those missed field goals are just a dagger to this team. I don't really know what it is, but, again, I don't know what your takes were. I thought the play calling, again, was a little suspicious, a little vanilla at times. I think there's still execution problems, but, definitely I think there could be improvements in the play calling. But I was really glad to see Tyson Williams get the rock, kind of establish the run game. I said this after the game. He should undoubtedly be the starter at running back from this point forward because he is the only guy right now in the backfield that he has that explosiveness. And, I mean, it's to see how the way that he ran Saturday makes it even more baffling that he hasn't touched the ball for 2 games. It's pretty crazy to think about it. But yeah, talk about, Tyler, your reactions to Tyson, the running game, anything that you took away from the offense as far as like play calling, anything that maybe you saw.
So the first play of the game, I see Tyson Williams run out there, and it's like the biggest slap in the face. Like, you're going to start the guy, but clearly you were wrong because you didn't give him 1 carry the week before when you lose. And then he just pounds it down their throat for like 7 straight plays. He's completely gassed, asking to come out of the game. And then you miss field goal and just like, here we go again. Yeah, I felt like that for majority of the game. It was just ugly. The execution I feel like was there a little bit more than last week, but obviously we played Louisiana Tech and not a conference game. I don't know what to make of those first few quarters at all, but it's just going to be those guys having to step up like Tyson Williams or Trey Smith. Brian Edwards did his job 100%. 100%. That's exactly what he needed to do. Coming off of losing your best player, you step up, catch 6 balls for 122 yards, and you make probably the biggest play of your life. So I feel like this is one of those games we kind of just have to write off and just say, hey, we won, move on.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And, yeah, that was one of my next points is that, with the loss of Deebo Samuel, obviously there was a lot of questions going around this week, who's going to step up, who's going to fill in that production role. I think Brian Edwards had the kind of game that, both you and I knew he was very capable of having, and him being the number 1 target, he was very capable of having. I mean, he balled out Saturday. There's no other way to put it. He balled out. I was really happy to see guys like Randricus Davis really getting involved in those out routes. We saw Shi Smith catching early in the year. They tried to go to him on a couple of different occasions. I know one on the very first drive where it was a good play, just a little bit out of his reach. I thought it was a good play design. Shi just out of his reach, like I said. But I think he's a guy they're going to use a ton more. I think he only got targeted like 3 or 4 times. Or Trey Smith, though, another guy who really looks like he's kind of coming into his own, really blooming, could be another big-time, big wide receiver for South Carolina. But one of the things that stood out to me, because I was able to go back and watch a decent amount of the game online, just kind of watch the replay. Jake Bentley's obviously he's playing average, but I definitely think he's still missing some throws. One of them that stood out to me, he's obviously not going to hit all of them, but one that stood out to me was very first drive of the game. I'm not sure if you remember this. Tyson Williams runs on a wheel route up the right side, and he overthrew him, whatever. But what you don't see on that play, if you go back and rewatch it, if you look underneath, he has Shi Smith running across the field wide open. And I feel like it's the throws that either he's missing or not making like that have people kind of up in arms about him right now. Like I said, I know he led the game-winning drive. I mean, it takes all the moxie in the world and all the talent, and I'm glad he's South Carolina's quarterback because don't underestimate that game-winning drive was something. I mean, it was something else. I mean, to have the whereabouts to the scramble play.
The scramble play was
crazy. It was crazy. It was like 30 yards. Then he doesn't spike the ball. Next play, throws it up to Brian Edwards, comes down with it, and the rest is history. But talk about what did you think about Jake Bentley's day on Saturday? Obviously, I thought he'd benefit a little bit more from a running game. I didn't think he played terrible. I thought the interception he threw was just simply a miscommunication because he threw it right to the guy. And I think they said that Hayden Hurst actually ran in when he thought he was going to run out. But talk about what were your impressions of Jake Bentley Saturday? Were you impressed with what you saw? Do you feel better, worse, kind of indifferent? What's your thoughts on it?
I think he played all right. I don't think he played a bad game by any means. I probably said a few things during the game that suggest otherwise. But, I mean, he's still missing. It's not missing like a screen pass where he overthrows him cool. No loss of anything. It's the touchdowns and the wide open throws that he just overthrows.
He missed Brian Edwards on one too. I forgot about that.
Yes, I mean
wide open down the field.
I'm probably his harshest critic. I mean, I think he's a great quarterback, and obviously, I don't think that we would have many other guys better. But it's just those throws. It's so frustrating. He's going to have to learn how to hit them. Like he doesn't really have an excuse for him either. He's just like, I missed him. I'll try and make him next time. But yeah. I think he just played all right. I don't feel any worse or better about his quarterbacking for the first 4 games.
Yeah, and I know, it's one thing you have to remember that this is just, that was just his 11th game.
Right.
And he's still very, very young. But one thing, I was having a conversation with one of my buddies this weekend. I'll ask you as well. Do you think this is something where this is just the kind of the guy Jake Bentley is? He's going to hit some, he's going to miss some. He's kind of a gunslinger, if you will. Or do you think that, he's going to make a massive, massive improvement before he can leave South Carolina? Because one hand, I think he's only going to improve. I mean, he's so young. But at the same time, like, I think he just kind of might be this guy where he's sort of a gunslinger. Like, he's going to make – you got to take the good with the bad, if that makes sense. What's kind of your feeling, your opinion on that?
I agree with you 100%. I don't really know which kind of way he's going to lean. I think he could evolve to be, one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, but he's going to have to evolve at some point. I don't really like the term gunslinger, but I mean, who else? I haven't seen anyone like him come through South Carolina or any teams around here. I don't know who to compare him to. He's just unique. But yeah, I feel like he could get so much better, and I think it's just simply staying in the moment and just making a throw. He's stepping up in the pocket. I mean, there's a lot of times he throws, he's on the scrambling because the offensive line lets him down. He runs out and he just throws it off his back foot. I mean, you can't be that accurate off your back foot unless you're like Patrick Mahomes. If you watch some of his film from last year, I mean, he could throw it 70 yards off his back foot and hit a dime. He's just not that guy. I feel like, those 10 to 20 yard throws are where he's the best, but that's where he's missing right now.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to say it's actually a crazy stat. I remember last year they were talking about in preseason, Jake Bentley had one of the highest completion percentages of deep throws down the field. I mean, he had one of the highest completion percentages. So he definitely has the ability. I mean, like I said, he's not going to hit every single one. I think it's unrealistic to ask that of him. But you're right. When you have a guy wide open, and there's been multiple instances where you have the guy wide open, you have to hit him. I don't know if he sees him and gets really wide-eyed and almost can't believe how open he is or what's going on. But, I mean, like I said, I don't want to harp on Bentley too much because when you throw for almost 300 yards, you had a pretty good day. And there's a lot of different areas of the offense that need to improve that don't have to do with number 19. But, I know that fans have been nitpicking. Like I said, you can't really underestimate how crucial and how great of a drive that was. to take the team down the field. I mean, they could have easily packed it in. I mean, they could have packed it in at the beginning of the fourth quarter down 13-0. I know probably a lot of fans did. And I mean, I'll admit myself, I mean, I was very I wasn't sure that South Carolina was going to come back and win that game. That's for sure.
I tweeted multiple times, ball game. Like,
yeah.
And then they just kept, I don't even know.
Yeah, no, it was crazy. I mean, it was great. You know, the Ortre Smith touchdown was great. Like I said, Tyson Williams, his 35-yard touchdown run. Like I said, the fact
right after a fumble.
Right after a fumble.
Scary.
Yeah. Yeah, the fact he didn't touch it for 2 games is baffling. I don't think it'll happen again. He's just too good of a player. And I know Rico had a little bit of I think a thigh bruise or something.
And then got nailed right in it.
Right, yeah. He got that's the hit he took Saturday.
He was already hurt though. He was questionable. That's why Tyson started.
I think it was his groin, right?
It was something in his leg, and then he just got nailed right in the leg again.
Right. Yeah. The one thing I do want to touch on though is the offensive line. Obviously, Zach Bailey. You know, it's been said he's not even going to play this week against Texas A&M. He'll probably be out for a couple more weeks. They're targeting around middle of October. The Tennessee game is what they're saying, but with those high ankle sprains, you never really know. Corey Helms goes down Saturday. Will Muschamp, thankfully, at least said he's day-to-day, but again, we're not even really sure the extent of the injury. So Darius Hutcherson was a guy that got a ton of playing time Saturday with Helms going out. I thought he did a pretty good job, and honestly, through 4 games, I think this offensive line is doing a pretty good job. I mean, there's not those, you know, they're not perfect, and there can be certainly huge improvements in the running game, but overall passing, I'm not seeing those jailbreak type things where, you know, Jake Bentley has absolutely no time to throw the football. I think Bentley, honestly, is getting time to work back there, and it was at least glad to see that South Carolina does have a little bit of depth. You know, Malik Young, I think, has got to get better at the right tackle position. But overall, I thought it was a decent day for the offensive line.
Yeah, I agree. Losing Zach Bailey is absolutely tragic.
It's tough.
Luckily, South Carolina gets him back for a few games. I mean, just the injury bugs everywhere. Offensive line definitely doesn't help. But like you said, I think they've done a serviceable job in the passing game. I mean, the only times we've seen Jake Bentley really run for his life, they've blitzed linebackers and safeties, and they just go untouched. But, I mean, that's on the running back, but for not blocking their assignment. But, yeah, running, I mean, they got to open up some holes. There weren't many holes these first 4 games at all. Tyson Williams hit the biggest one I've seen all year, and luckily he took it to the house. Yeah, they just got to open up holes. That's all there is to it. And they're gonna face a much bigger D line this week.
Yeah, obviously I know as well. The short yardage situation is the 3rd and 1. The 4th and 1 was a focus this week. What'd you think about that? Because I did at least like to see. You know, I thought they used it too much. I'll preface saying that, but got under center, had a bunch tight ends on the right. I remember the first 3rd and 1 of the game. Everybody was kind of on the edge of the seat, like, what are they going to do? Hand it off to Tyson. He runs in the middle for 10 yards. So that was at least nice to see. What did you think about the play calling, the short yardage situations?
I feel like they addressed a lot of the complaints that South Carolina fans had over the last week, and they took it under center. They ran it straight at the middle. Big boy football. It's SEC. That's how you're supposed to do it. The passing plays, I mean, they were about the same, but just having some kind of variety. There were a lot more deep balls we saw. A few of them were underthrown. I remember Shi Smith was wide open on a fly route going straight at the middle of the field, and he got underthrown by like 5 yards and got absolutely drilled. Same thing with Ortre Smith on the sideline. That was actually a good throw, and Ortre just got popped right in the face. But just, you know, throwing the ball down the field a little bit more we saw, but that was kind of more later in the game. But like you said, I mean, under the center, you have to do that. And I think they went, 8 for 14 on 3rd down, something like that.
8 for 14.
That was the biggest problem. That's the biggest problem we have, you know, on offense this year. So going 8 for 14, no matter who you play, is a drastic improvement from what we've seen.
Yeah, and the last thing, because I want to move on to the defense, the last thing I'll say, though, and I said this after the game Saturday, I just think the one thing, I don't like to be the person that harps on the play calling because, like I've said before, like we don't get paid to call plays. Like they obviously know more than we do about, you know, what they see in the defense. And, you know, obviously there's times as well where, you know, Jake Bentley's changing the play at the line, stuff like that. But it just felt like to me when they came in the 4th quarter, they're down 13-0, and they sort of had to open up the playbook and had to throw downfield. The offense, I mean, they scored 17 points in the final quarter. I mean, it's not rocket science. I just feel like sometimes these college coaches, they make it so much harder than it needs to be, and they want to be these geniuses, and they want to, they want to take all the credit for, it's my genius, the reason we score these points. When it's like with this, I feel like with this offense, with these weapons you have, it's kind of like, hey, let your quarterback drop back and just play like a 7-on-7 and just let him sling it around. I mean, just stop trying to overthink this thing and let guys. I mean, because the final drive showed you. I mean, it wasn't a great throw by any means. And that play design, obviously in those situations, you wouldn't probably run it that exact same way, just normal during the game. But when you give a guy like Brian Edwards a chance to go up and make a play, a lot of times he's going to make the play.
Exactly.
Especially when you have the mismatch that they had all day with those corners being 5'9", I think, was the match. I mean, you got to give and Will Muschamp said after the game about that catch, that's why you recruit. Well, exactly. That's why you recruit. So go let those guys go make plays. Don't try to overthink this thing and get all in a scheme. I mean, if it's 3rd and 1, get your big guys in there. You trust your O-line and give it to your running back and let him run up the middle. I just feel like sometimes they try to overthink this thing. It's like, just let you guys go out there. Let them make plays. You've got playmakers. It's not like you don't know who can make a play. You got guys that can do it. You got a quarterback that can get it to them. Just let them make plays. That's all I'll really say. I thought it was a decently called game. The execution needs to be better, but you don't need to wait to the 4th quarter and try to start taking shots and giving your guys opportunities to make plays. With that being said, though, you were talking about the injury bug. Moving to the defense, we found out after the game, Bryson Williams is out for the season. I hated to hear that because he was having such a good year. He does have a redshirt year. However, he's going to use that, come back next season. But it kind of leads me into, where was the pass rush? There was only 1 sack on the day. I think Louisiana Tech was able to get the ball out quickly and sort of limit the Gamecocks pass rush. But a couple of times I can remember they just flat out missed the quarterback, Jamar Smith. One time in particular, I remember Keir Pollard. Or it was Keir Thomas, excuse me. Keir Thomas had a shot right at the quarterback, just flat out missed him. Tyler, with that being said, more so, I guess, not so much looking at this game, moving down. With Bryson Williams gone, who do you think the Gamecocks are going to need to step up in the pass rush? Because he was obviously a big guy that they were using to that point this season for that exact purpose.
Yeah, it didn't help that Dante Sawyer is out for the game too, and I think that's the biggest guy that's going to have to step up and rush the passer a little bit. He's done a fairly good job this year of rushing the passer. I think he's certainly capable, but like I said, people got to get healthy. Losing Bryson Williams is awful. It's just next guy up. That's all there is to it. I mean, there's no other analysis to it. Somebody's just going to have to step up, and I think it'll be Dante Sawyer. You got to look to your senior to make some plays if he's healthy.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I didn't realize that he didn't play that much. I thought they had cleared him before the game, but I
don't think he played at all.
He didn't play at all. Okay. I wasn't sure. I was looking for him out there. Actually thinking about it now, I don't think I saw him out there, but I did read something very interesting today. Will Muschamp, I guess he had like his weekly maybe teleconference or something. I heard the name Shamik Blackshear today. He might start getting some action. So
wow.
It's a name we've kind of wondered when would he come out of the woodworks, and he might actually start seeing some reps. So
he has to.
he sort of has to. I agree with you. Will they start to use Sky more and more in blitzes? Will they start to use TJ Brunson? Guys like Aaron Sterling, Brad Johnson were guys that Will Muschamp had mentioned. But it starts up front with Dante Sawyer. Keir Thomas, those guys up front to really DJ Wanham. DJ Wanham to get the presence off the edge. And like I said, Louisiana Tech, they get the ball out really quick. It's not like an
I'm not looking much
into back there. Yeah, for sure. But it was kind of, I thought the defense played well. Like we said, Jamarcus King finally stepping up. I just thought this was a game. I had a weird feeling he was going to make a big play. I just didn't think he would keep continuing to have his struggles. And I was really, really happy to see him, make a big play. Because honestly, I think that play is really the one that turned the game around. I mean, La Tech was in position again.
If they would have scored right there, it was over.
It was over, 13-0. They were basically about to score. And
20.
Jamar Smith thinks he has somebody in the end zone. Out of nowhere comes Jamarcus King and makes the pick. I mean, a huge play. One of the things that stood out to me in the secondary is that I think teams, as talented as he is, I think teams are going to come after Jamias Williams a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Just because he's kind of being put on an island right now. obviously he's really, really young, and there were definitely some times Saturday where, he's just young. I mean, there's not really much you can ask of him. I mean, he's just so young, and he's being kind of thrown to the fire right now. He's going to make some really big plays for you like he did at Mizzou, and sometimes he's just going to get burnt. So I think that it's just going to be kind of Gamecock fans are just going to have to swallow that with Jemias Williams and kind of just watch his development. But overall, yeah, like I said, I thought the bend but don't break defense again seemed to work well. I know South Carolina did lose the time possession battle just slightly, but yeah, I mean, they were able to make the big stops when they needed them, and especially in the fourth quarter, a couple big plays there. Denny Fennell got the one sack of the day. He came in, provided a little bit of rush, and yeah, I mean, I think this South Carolina defense is definitely it's a much, much better unit than we had expected at this point.
Yeah, the D-line obviously has to step up, but T.J. Brunson has been magnificent. I mean, I don't think anyone, including himself, thought that he'd play that well this year.
Leading the SEC in tackles of 42.
Yeah, that's insane. It's the linebacking has been spectacular, and losing Bryson Allen Williams just stabs you right in the heart. Secondaries play, I guess all right. I'd say they're average. Obviously, they're playing so far off the ball, it's hard for them to contest any type of pass whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, I'd say they're slightly above average.
Yeah, a guy that I was watching too Saturday, because we had talked about last week, I haven't really heard much from him, was Rashad Fenton. He just continues to have good games. I mean, they're just not throwing his way really because he's just all over his man. I mean, he's not giving his man really any breathing. I think there's one play he had that I saw.
There was one.
I really noticed where the guy – because I remember I was sitting there watching. I was like, man, Rashad Fenton, they can't complete anything on literally the next play they threw and completed. I was like, wow.
I think it was a quick slant that they ran, and he got absolutely burnt.
I mean, he's having a good year. I mean,
yeah, he's really good.
The picks are going to come for him if they ever throw it his way. But
I think these SEC schools will have to.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, for sure.
Going to be on their best receiver
for sure. Moving on to what's become a roller coaster, to say the least. Special teams. It was not a good start, Tyler. It was not a good start again, and the Gamecock faithful let Will Muschamp, Parker White, and company hear it with a chorus of boos after especially the second missed field goal. Parker White misses his first one. I think it was like 38 yards, and I thought it was good at first because it was so close. Saw him waving complete, and the next one he misses. Talk about I'm kind of curious. What was your feeling? Because I saw you on Twitter saying, don't kick this. I can't believe they're about to kick it. What were your feelings right before they lined up for the field goal? Did you have any confidence at all that Parker White would hit that field goal?
I had no confidence whatsoever. When Brian Edwards caught the ball, there was like 7 seconds left. I thought they'd run another play to try and, just throw a quick pass, get out of bounds. But I don't think they even trusted the offense to do that without running out of clock. I guess you have no other choice. But I was just like, why do I have to deal with the stress of this kick? And he's just freaking splits it right down the middle.
Yeah, I almost felt like I was like, he has to make this one, right? Like
that's what I thought too.
He can't miss this one. Like, I mean, it was almost just ironic with like all the ones he's missed. Like, if there was any one he was going to make today, it'd be this one. And thankfully for South Carolina, he did, like you said, split it right down the middle. I thought it was kind of – I mean, I know it was a game winner, but I thought it was sort of silly how he kind of ran off and was doing like the whole like wave of the crowd. Like, I was like, Park, dude, come on. You went 1 of 3 today. Like I said, you don't get to kick a whole lot of game winners. Yeah, you don't kick a whole lot of game winners. So
that's after it was the worst day of his life.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, goes from the doghouse to the penthouse, really. My biggest question, I think, from that, Tyler, do you think this can propel – I mean, I'm not saying Parker White's going to turn to Elliott Fry or be some All-American kicker, but how much confidence do you think this gives White, and do you think this can propel him moving forward to be a pretty solid option for South Carolina where we're not cowering at every single field goal kick?
10,000,000%. I think that was probably the best thing that – well, obviously it's the best thing that ever happened to him because he's a walk-on, and he just made a game winner at home. But yeah, he knows he can make one now. I think that's the biggest thing. Just knowing you can make one, in front of a huge crowd, even under the pressure of kicking a game winner. And they iced him. Obviously, you were in the game. You couldn't see his face. I mean, he was just like dead terrified. And nothing against him. He just looked scared. And Louisiana Tech's kicker, the drive before when they were going down and they kicked the field goal to go up 4, he's on the sideline just laughing. He's like, yeah, let's freaking go. I'm ready for this. And Parker's just dead silent, just not talking to anybody. That's what scared me the most about the kick, because he was visibly scared. In my opinion, maybe he was just like in the zone. I don't know.
Cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, but I really think that he'll start, becoming, like you said, he won't become Elliott Fry, but I think that he'll be a serviceable kicker.
Yeah, no, I definitely tend to agree with you. I think they can do nothing but give him confidence and give this team confidence. And kind of moving into like our key takeaways of the game, that whole mantra I just said about Parker White, I can sort of apply it to the entire team, Tyler, because the first point I had is, who are these Gamecocks? Are they the Gamecocks we saw against Kentucky into the first 3 quarters, or are they the Gamecocks we saw in the final quarter that were, very stingy on defense, open up the playbook? I guess my question is, how much – well, let me see if I can word this right. How much does that final quarter impact? Because like you said, this game, when you look back on this season, I think this game, you're right, sort of a wash. You got the W. Every team, it seems like, in college football has these type of games where, I said after the game on Twitter, it was brutal, it was ugly, it was downright embarrassing at times, but the bottom line is South Carolina got it done, and they won the football game in a tough game when they could have just given up. They could have just folded, said, hey, you know what, it's not our day. The young team comes back and wins, though. Do you think that a comeback like this, even against a team like Louisiana Tech, do you think that type of comeback going to the fourth quarter can propel and give South Carolina some momentum, moving forward?
I think the game in a normal fashion would have done more. I think coming off a loss, you needed to go out there and, you put your foot down and just go. And they didn't do it at all. So I don't think so. I feel like, like a 2-score or a 3-score win against a team like that would have given them much more confidence moving on than having to come back in the fourth quarter. When you get the win, if you would have lost, it would have been like a Citadel type thing, and South Carolina fans wouldn't have, or there's non-South Carolina fans would have let Carolina fans have it for so long. But in 2 weeks, no one's even going to remember this game because we won. So yeah, I don't know how much it helps that they came back versus if they would have, went out there and played well from the get-go.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with you to an extent. I think this is the kind of situation in a game, and you have a fourth quarter like they did and come back. I definitely think it's going to give a young team like this, because they're extremely young. I mean, yeah, he's still extremely young. It can give a young team like this confidence, especially, you have to go on the road, Texas A&M this weekend. We'll talk about that one a little bit more, later in the week on the next show. But yeah, I mean, I think that when it comes to who is this team, they're still kind of finding themselves. I think they're sort of a in between, what we saw against Kentucky in the first 3 quarters and what we saw in the fourth quarter. Not quite as good as that. I don't think they're definitely not as bad as that. And people are starting to forget, it seems like, about what South Carolina did against NC State, a team that just went and beat Florida State at their place, how South Carolina dismantled a Missouri team, how good they looked on offense. I kind of thought, I didn't really think this was talked about enough going in the week, but I thought South Carolina maybe was flat from the Kentucky loss a little bit. I don't know if they were feeling sorry for themselves or maybe a little bit flat. Did you think that at all? Did you think that Kentucky loss sort of carried over and they kind of had to get over that in this game, or do you think it was just simply just poor execution just in this game?
I'm not really sure. I feel like after losing a conference game, you could kind of regroup and say, hey, they were good. But I think it's also a combination of, not getting up for a game because it's Louisiana Tech. Tennessee did the same exact thing against UMass, who's way worse than Louisiana Tech. Let me say that first. But, it's hard to get excited for games like that. It was hard for me to get excited about the game. That's why I didn't even go. But, getting up for that game, it's hard. It's not a conference game. It's not pretty. You're not going to, become ranked by winning the game. So I think it's a combination because they didn't come out flat. They went and drove the ball straight down the field. and then, we get 0 points because of a missed field goal. I think if they would have scored a touchdown, then we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, it sort of took the air out of them, honestly. I mean, because like I said,
Right.
I was in the stadium, and it sort of took the air out of me as a fan. I mean, you were just like, oh my God, here we go again.
Here we go again. Yep.
Here we go again. And the offense starts to press, and then the defense feels the pressure because they got to feel like they got to make a stop on every play. It changes the whole game, the whole dynamic. So, honestly, it's funny, during the game, I was so down, so out, just don't even know what to think about this team, what's going on, who is this team? And then South Carolina hits the fourth quarter, was probably one of the most exciting quarters of football I ever watched, hits the game-winning field goal. And honestly, I did not think I'd be that happy after the game because, you just sit there, you kind of gather your thoughts and say South Carolina's 3-1. Doesn't really matter how they got there or how they beat La Tech, but South Carolina's 3-1. And if you told any South Carolina fans starting this season after the first 4 games, South Carolina will be 3-1, everyone would have taken it. There's nobody that wouldn't have taken that. Would have been absolutely ecstatic to be 3-1. So like I said, I think this is just going to be a team that they're going to be inconsistent. There's going to be games where South Carolina looks really, really good. There's going to be games you just scratch your head and wonder, what happened. But I think this was, and Muschamp touched on it in his post-game presser about the culture of the program and the culture of this team. I think this game was really, really important. And I really think this game might honestly have done more for the program and the players than we might even understand as far as confidence and just resiliency, because obviously you're always going to face, adversity and things of that nature. Honestly, I was extremely proud of the way they stepped up. Like I said, they could have packed it in and folded it and just said, hey, it's not our year. It's not our game, whatever. But, to step up, Jake Bentley to lead the team, that says a lot to me. And I think this can be, I know it was Louisiana Tech and it's not a pretty game. You won by 1 point, but I do think it can be somewhat of a springboard and you can pick up some momentum if you use it the right way. So, I think it'll be really, really interesting to see how they move into this week of practice and the next weekend, obviously, against Texas A&M. But, yeah, we're going to hand out some game balls, some Armchair All-American game balls. Tyler, I'll start on offense. I'm going to go with Tyson Williams. Like I said, I think the running game was obviously a huge, huge focus coming in this week because of South Carolina's just flat-out inability to run the football. They ran for 143 yards overall. But Tyson Williams, 13 carries for 95 yards, a touchdown, had that touchdown run, 35 yards. And he just looked good all day. I mean, looked explosive. He looked like the guy we all heard about. And, we had talked about it before the season. This was something I said that I really thought Tyson Williams could take over the starting role. And to me, he's more than earned that title. And he seems to be a solid home run threat for the Gamecocks in the backfield. And then on defense, I got to give it to Jamarcus King. We've obviously been giving him a lot of criticism over the first couple of weeks, deservedly so. But he made a huge play Saturday, turned the game around. Gave the Gamecocks the ball back, down 13-0. They were able to go down the field and score on a 97-yard drive. Let's not forget that. I think it was 15 plays or something like that. But just a huge momentum swinging play. So I'm going to give my defensive game ball to Jamarcus King.
All right. If you took Tyson Williams, I have to give mine to Brian Edwards because, South Carolina doesn't win the game if it wasn't for Brian Edwards making that catch that wasn't even thrown to him. It's kind of, step up to the plate. I'm the next guy up. I'm going to go get this ball. I don't care what, I'm going to take it. He just went up and grabbed it, came down with it, secured it, which is the biggest thing because Ortre Smith caught the ball on the same drive, and then he got hit high and dropped it. If he catches that, he's out of bounds, and, that play doesn't have to happen. Brian Edwards, 6 catches, 122 yards. That's pretty good yards per catch. I'm not that good at math. But that's what, 20 something or 20 on the dot. So a great day for Brian Edwards. I'm glad he stepped up to the plate. On defense, if you took hard to pick somebody else, one guy I was looking at a lot the entire game. He only had 3 tackles, but it's Taylor Stallworth. On the running, they didn't run the ball at all. They had 28 carries for 80 yards. So it's 2 points a carry, and Taylor Stallworth was so many times, just getting through and, allowing other people to make the tackles, or he also had a tackle for loss. So I'll tie it with T.J. Brunson and Taylor Stallworth, because they were huge in stopping the run. 2.9 yards a carry. I don't care who you are. That's terrible.
Yeah, that was Taylor Stallworth. I'm glad you said that. He was definitely a guy I watched Saturday. He had a huge, even on plays that he didn't make the tackle, he's in the backfield almost every play. I mean,
right.
he's a force up there. And also got to give a shout. Javon Kinlaw got his first start there. I thought he played well. Again, just seeing him play in person, he is just such a big dude. Like he takes up 2 blockers every play he's in. He really does. He really does. And of course, I'm not going to let us get off of game balls without giving the overall game ball to Parker White. I mean, hits the game winner, 31-yard field goal. Goes from, like we said, 0 to hero. Congratulations, Parker White. Look forward to seeing you kick more down the road. Like I said, I think this is going to propel him for the rest of the season. So I'm excited to see what happens. And man, it's a heck of a finish. I'm glad he had the ice in his veins for the last one at least. Makes the Gamecocks 2 of 8 on the year in field goals. So heck of a stat there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but hey, you make one that's very, very important. Make the one that counts. So
a stat I'm looking at right now. I went at the stats for a defensive guy, but looking at the receiving, 11 different guys caught a pass. 11.
That's a ton.
Yeah, 22 catches, and it was 11 different players. That's really eye-opening, because all these guys had to step up. Rodriguez Davis had 2, Jacob August got in and had 1, Shi Smith, Chad Terrell, Tyson Williams.
I was going to say, how many of those guys are freshmen and sophomores? I mean, basically all of them.
Yeah, or Trey had that big touchdown catch. We didn't really talk about that, but man, he completely ran those 2 dudes over.
Yeah, he's going to be a really good one. I mean,
his potential is through the roof.
Yeah, and like he's
that prototypical NFL receiver. He's the Alshon, Sidney Rice type.
Yeah, I mean, I love Debo, don't get me wrong, but I love having the big guys on the outside, the big wide receivers, because it's just nice having that physical presence outside. And like you said, I mean, that shot he took, a lot of guys would have just been knocked out or fell down, but he literally trucked the dude and put his hand on the ground, held himself up, and went in the end zone. That was a big time play. So, and Gamecock fans kind of, obviously the offense hasn't done what we all had hoped and expected at this point, but again, they're really young. I mean, freshmen and sophomores, these are sophomores. Everybody's asking to make all these plays, and South Carolina's got a lot of talent. I mean, again, it's going to be a show me week for that offense. And I'm going to throw some criticism Kurt Roper's way, because when you have all the pieces you have right now and you rank where you rank in offense, you're past like 100th in the nation in offense. It's really unacceptable with those kind of players you have. But, we need to see some progression. I mean, you need to see some yardage. We need to see some points, really see this offense step up. So it's going to be a big week for that. We're going to dive into that later in the week, obviously, when we preview the Texas A&M game. But, the execution's got to be there. The play calling's got to be there. It's obviously all collective effort. But like you said, 11 guys touching the football receiving is extremely encouraging. And it's nice to see Jake Bentley spreading the ball around like that. And with that being said, we're going to move into listener questions. Only got 2 today. They're both from Reddit. This one comes from Rhett Williams 88. What do we need to do to play like we did in the fourth quarter for the rest of the season and not like the first 3 quarters? We have serious offensive ability. Why do we look inept at that side of the ball? Really trying to not jump on the fire Kurt Roper wagon, but after Saturday, it has become difficult. Tyler, I'll let you start with that one first.
The fourth quarter, when you had those opportunities, you scored points. You didn't get off the field, having empty possessions. You didn't turn the ball over. You got down. You scored the touchdown. That'll be the biggest thing, I think, going into these bigger games. Don't settle for 3 and outs, or when you get to the 50, have to punt and reverse the field. You got to get in. You got to score touchdowns in the red zone instead of kick field goals and maybe miss them. It's so demoralizing to get down the red zone and come up with 0 points. So, they've gotten into opponents' territory a lot. I'd love to see how many times that's happened. They just don't come away with points. So I think that's the biggest thing going forward.
Yeah, and it was kind of, what you said as well, and I saw a lot of other tweets as well, but South Carolina's left 16 points on the board last 2 weeks. And when you play good football teams, you cannot leave points on the board. And, it happened against Kentucky. Not so much against La Tech because they did capitalize. But another thing, when you get turnovers, you got to score. You at least got to get 3. But, yeah, can't leave points on the board. Like you said, I think, what do they need to do play like they did in the fourth quarter for the rest of the year? Like I said, I just think it's not overcomplicating it. Let guys go make plays. Let Jake Bentley be loose, throw the football around. Obviously, use Tyson Williams, be able to establish the running game. But, I don't want to jump on the fire Kurt Rober bandwagon either. It's hard not to, just because I feel like there's an eerie trend that's happening now. Like, if it happens once or twice, you can say it's kind of it's an anomaly, but when it keeps happening over and over and over, and we knew this was Muschamp's kryptonite, if you will, at Florida about his offenses, it bothers you a little bit. You know what I mean? So you got to just let the reins go a little bit and just let your guys go make plays. Simplify this thing down. I like the RPO. I don't know if you listened to the show I did last week, Tyler, but I told I'd said on the show that I've heard the term RPO about 1,000 different times, and I don't want to talk about it because it just they say it over and over and over again.
Yep, I hate it.
I listened to 107.5 the game. They literally spent like an hour talking about RPOs. But if establish the run game, just be smart. Don't outsmart yourself. You have good players. Let your guys make plays. And then at that point, when you're put in position to make plays, you got to execute. Jake Bentley can't miss wide open throws down the field. When the hole's there, you've got to hit it. And that's what South Carolina did in the fourth quarter. Jake Bentley made really good throws, especially the one to Ortre Smith was a great throw. They were able to keep drives moving. You gave guys like Brian Edwards a chance to make a play. He did so. So, good blocking for the run game. Tyson Williams goes in. So, South Carolina really needs to establish an offensive identity. I'm not sure they really have that right now. But I think getting Tyson Williams going is going to help that tremendously. So it'll be interesting to really see how they, kind of use that and what they establish going forward. And then our last question comes from Adaman360. With Bryson Allen Williams out, who do you expect to step up in his place at linebacker? Same question for the O-line with Zach Bailey out. We sort of talked about this earlier a little bit. Bryson Allen Williams being out. At linebacker, Muschamp had said he thinks it's going to be kind of a collective effort. You look at a guy like Sherrod Green. Obviously, T.J. Brunson, the year he's having is obviously great. Sky Moore, we all know about Sky. But guys like Sherrod Green, Denny Fennell as well. Who's the other guy I'm missing? Who am I not counting in this, Tyler?
Aaron Sterling.
Sterling as well. Brad Johnson. Some of those younger guys, as far as like in a pass rushing role, yeah, I think you're gonna see Aaron Sterling a lot. But yeah, it's just gonna be a collection of guys, sort of how the Deebo Samuel injury is. But the one good news, I hate that Bryson Allen Williams is out for the year. The only good news though is that honestly, T.J. Brunson and Sky Moore are becoming one of the best linebacking duos in the country. Especially like you said, the way T.J. Brunson's playing is out of his mind. So if he can continue to do that, I think South Carolina should be okay at the linebacking position. As far as the offensive line goes, obviously losing Zach Bailey is a huge, huge blow. Malik Young is going to play right tackle. I think he fits pretty well in that role. They're going to shuffle the guys like Sedarius Hutchinson, obviously, that we talked about earlier. You really, really need Corey Helms to come back healthy. I think if he can't come back for this weekend, that really hurts. But yeah, Dennis Daly, Donnell Stanley, I think they still feel good. Alan Knott, obviously, they still feel good about it, but it's kind of one of those things now, Tyler, you got to kind of cross your fingers and, pray for no more injuries because there aren't many guys left behind those five they've got. So, yeah, with that being said, that's pretty much going to wrap us up. We'll do a little post show. Tyler, you had mentioned it was a wacky week in the SEC. Tennessee getting a scare at home. I think Tennessee fans are nearly ready to run Butch Jones out of town. They host Georgia this weekend in what should be
that is going to be. I'm not going to cuss, but
an interesting game. Georgia looked like the class of the SEC East.
They are going to run away.
They dismantled Mississippi State. They just absolutely dismantled Mississippi State.
Did you get to watch that game by any chance, or at least the first play?
I watched a good bit. I saw the flea flicker.
What a freaking play call! What a freaking play call!
Kirby Smart said he just looked like it was there. I kind of hope South Carolina sort of takes that out of their book. I mean,
well, we tried to last year against Mississippi State, and that we overthrew it.
Yeah, no, I do remember that. Yeah,
You know, just plays like that. It's awesome. They probably took that from that game. You know, they came out absolutely firing. I think they felt disrespected after barely beating Notre Dame, and I don't think Notre Dame's that good.
Georgia was just ready for Mississippi State. Mississippi State was kind of the hot team to sort of jump on, but I didn't fall for it. I thought Georgia at home would win.
A night game between the hedges.
Yeah,
over. I pray to God we have a 12:00 game at Georgia.
Knowing South Carolina, they'll probably have like one of those weird like 5 o'clock. It seems like when South Carolina's at Georgia, it's the weirdest kickoff down like 5:30. Like when do games ever kick off at 5:30? But I don't know. We'll save that for another day. The other game I want to talk about. Florida, for the 31st year in a row, beats the Kentucky Wildcats. Kentucky fails to cover a receiver at all. Did you watch that game?
I didn't get to watch it. I watched the last drive.
Oh, man. Wow. That game was wild. So I don't know if you saw the play. If you didn't, you really need to go back and watch the highlights. Basically, to get the go-ahead score, it's 27-20 Kentucky. Florida lines up like at the, 5-yard line or so of Kentucky. And they line up just like in an I formation with one wide receiver out to the right. Well, I guess one of the Kentucky guys got confused, thought he was the 12th man, so he runs off the field. So they only have 10 guys on the field. The receiver, I'm not kidding you, is at the top of the field wide. Nobody's even covered him. So Luke Del Rio just takes the snap and just throws it to him, and he catches it in the end zone for the touchdown.
Wow.
They go ahead 28-27. That happened. The first one wasn't a touchdown, but there were 2 plays in the game just flat out didn't cover a wide receiver.
That's amazing.
I wish I could tell you I feel bad for Kentucky, but you know what? After last week, I really don't. So I literally
sucks and Florida sucks. So power.
I literally texted Stephen Cabrera, our Florida writer, and just said thank you. I feel a little better about what happened in Columbia because Kentucky fans feel so bad. And you know what? When it gets to that point where I'm reveling in Kentucky fans. Self-pity, it's not a good point, but you know what? That's just the place the SEC East is in. So
it's a dumpster fire.
It is what it is. So, but yeah, and then I'll just touch on it just because why not? The team in the Upstate had a bit of a struggle this weekend as well. They couldn't really say much about South Carolina. They had their own struggle. We're only leading Boston College 7-0 in the third quarter.
It was 7-7 at that.
7-7 third quarter.
Yeah, it was tied late in that game.
Yeah, eventually pulled away, but they've
Clemson's running back that turns on turbo in the middle of his runs. That's freaking.
Yeah, I tell you what, they've got a scary game this weekend though in Blacksburg. Saturday night in Blacksburg, 8 o'clock. Well, I don't know if I do that, but Saturday night in Blacksburg, 8 o'clock, college game day.
No, I'm saying a guy bet me Virginia Tech would beat Clemson. I was like, yeah, that's $20.
No, I know. No, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I wouldn't bet on Virginia Tech straight up, but that's going to be.
I will pay $20 for Clemson to lose. Okay.
Yeah. Oh no, trust me. No, I'd gladly do it. I think they probably have more chance to lose now that you bet on them to win.
Exactly. That's my point.
I might bet on them to win too now, honestly.
There we go.
But with that being said, we'll wrap it up again. Be sure to check us out on iTunes. You want to listen to the show, follow the show, go to iTunes, the Spurs Up Show, rate, subscribe. Obviously, give us your feedback. We appreciate all of it. Tell us what you like about the show and don't like. Follow us on Twitter at ArmchairSCar, again, at ArmchairSCAR. On Instagram at ArmchairSCarolina. And go to Armchair All Americans. Check out all of our latest breaking Gamecock news and coverage. Obviously, the show as well. All of our other featured articles on the Armchair All Americans site. And also, again, we are taking submissions for videos on game day. Please be sure to send those in. We'll be giving out prizes all season long. The next home game, obviously, is against the Arkansas Razorbacks, where I don't know if you saw, Tyler, the Gamecocks will host the Razorbacks October 7th, 4 o'clock kickoff on SEC Network. So plan accordingly. So with that being said, Tyler, before we get into our Texas A&M preview later this week, you got any last words wrapping up Louisiana Tech?
I feel better. I got to vent about it other than on Twitter. So on to
I tell you what, Twitter becomes a very interesting place during games on Saturdays, not just for you, but myself, for everyone. It's like people.
I go off, man.
I literally tell people, I'm like, I'm a different person on kickoff because it's like you get in this zone, this mode. I told my buddy today, I was like, man, I'm a real jerk on game days sometimes. When I have I'll have my Clemson buddies text me and I'll just tell them off. I mean, I'm just like, I'm not having it today, man. I don't even want to have like a sensible conversation half the time. So, yeah, exactly. So, with that being said, as always, he's Tyler Clark. I'm Chris Phillips. We appreciate you guys listening, and we'll catch you later this week, same time, to preview the Texas A&M matchup.